Dr. V, I appreciate the invitation, and Dr. V, thank you for the invitation, and again, congratulations on 50 years. These are our disclosures of some of the work funding some of the surrounding evidence I'll discuss today. I have three goals for the next few minutes. First, to review data shared at an FDA panel in November 2021 outlining the role of device type in long-term EVAR outcomes. Second, I'll summarize the SAFE AAA study led by my friend and colleague Eric Soszemsky and his group at the Deaconess. And finally, outline the long-term EVAR assessment and follow-up system, a multi-stakeholder plan to meet the FDA's goals for long-term post-EVAR surveillance in the real world. First, the data shared at the FDA panel back in 2021. This is a screenshot. Remember, this was in the hotbed of COVID. A screenshot of the FDA panel discussion that was convened to provide input on real-world surveillance of abdominal aortic endovascular stent grafts and the likelihood that failures might occur in the real world. Our group was asked to comment because we helped lead what we call the Vascular Implant Surveillance and Interventional Outcomes Network, or VQI Vision. This is a linked registry claims data set that uses the clinical information available in VQI linked to Medicare claims to provide a long-term digital surveillance system, so to speak, for EVAR outcomes in the real world. We found we can accurately measure things like survival, reintervention, and late aneurysm rupture. And in some of these analyses, we found evidence of late failure for an individual types of devices. Shown here on the x-axis is time, and shown on the y-axis is reintervention. And you can see the early generations of the Endologix device, the line shown in brown, had significantly higher rates of reintervention than comparator devices shown in the multicolor lines below. This was eventually published in the British Medical Journal in a paper titled "In Use of Linked Registry Claims Data for Long-Term Surveillance of EVAR Outcomes." This was a sort of a similar study convened by the Food and Drug Administration entitled the SAFE AAA study, and we'll share that briefly here now. This was led by Dr. Soszemsky and colleagues and was entitled Comparison of Unibody and Non-Unibody Endografts, that's code speak for the AFX device, the only unibody on the market, versus the non-unibody devices, again, comparators, for abdominal aortic aneurysm repair in Medicare beneficiaries, and they entitled it the SAFE AAA study. This was published last year in Circulation, and Dr. Soszemsky was the first author. The primary objective of this study was similar to the work discussed from VQI Vision, was to evaluate the composite outcome of late aneurysm rupture, endograft relining, endograft extension, conversion open repair, or all-cause mortality following infrarenal EVAR with a unibody graft compared to other commercially available non-unibody grafts. These are their main findings. Again, shown on the right, in the panel on the right, on the x-axis is time, and on the y-axis is the incidence of the primary outcome. And you can see these findings are eerily similar. The blue line are the unibody devices, and the red line is the non-unibody devices. And you can see both in terms of the shape of the curve and the magnitude of the effect size that there appears to be a continual aggregation of failure events, and those appear to be happening approximately 20% more in the individual devices that were unibody devices in this analysis. This was an elegantly done analysis with propensity matching in a myriad of secondary composite outcomes and falsification tests, things like late aneurysm rupture, graft relining, or conversion to open repair. And all of these, in terms of increasing risk, showed higher risks in the unibody devices and lower risks in the non-unibody devices. So their conclusions were that among 88,000 patients treated, that unibody devices failed to meet non-inferiority of their composite endpoint of graft failure or need for reintervention. And these were findings that were similar to what we studied in VQI. What was the outcome of this? Well, we thought that, we asked FDA what they thought the next step should be, and FDA's response after the panel was that we should create a real-world surveillance system to collect data through 10 years after EVAR, and this should assess clinical endpoints and should be designed to additionally capture imaging endpoints as well. This is work that's ongoing. These are collaborations between our group and VQI Vision as well as Kaiser to build what we call LEAF, or the Long-Term EVAR Assessment and Follow-Up Plan. These are device dashboards that can serve as a near real-time national signal surveillance systems with a key advantage that allows similar outcomes measured and reported similarly across devices. We have a large steering committee. A multi-step implementation plan is shown here, and we're fortunate to have support from a multi-stakeholder collaborative effort between real-world data sources and industry partners to accomplish this goal. I'd like to acknowledge all my collaborators, especially those in VQI, as well as in Kaiser Permanente, and I wish to acknowledge the committee for the privilege of presenting this work. Thank you.